Welcome to Level Up Stronger, the podcast where we dive deep into the mental and physical aspects of becoming your best self. This week, we're tackling a universal challenge that affects us all, yet often goes unaddressed: stress.
That's right, Tiffany. Stress is something that affects all of us at some point in our lives, and understanding how to identify it, manage it, and even utilize it can truly transform our lives. April is National Stress Awareness Month, so it's the perfect time to talk about the impact of stress in our lives and how it can both hinder and fuel our growth, and more importantly, how we can manage it effectively.
Absolutely. So let's start with the basics. What exactly is stress?
Of course, there's a lot of different definitions, but we're going to talk about it. But at its core, stress is our body's natural response to challenges or demands. It's that feeling of pressure or tension we experience when we perceive a situation as threatening or difficult.
And it's important to recognize that stress isn't always a bad thing. In fact, a certain level of stress can motivate us to take action and achieve our goals.
Definitely. However, when stress becomes chronic or overwhelming, that's when it can start to take a toll on our mental and physical health.
So how can we identify when we're experiencing unhealthy levels of stress?
Well, Tiff, there are both physical and emotional signs to look out for. Physically, you might notice things like headaches, muscle tension, digestive issues, spasms, and emotionally, you might feel irritable, anxious, or feeling overwhelmed.
It's also important to pay attention to these signs and not just brush them off as normal.
Yeah.
Once we recognize that we're experiencing stress, what are some strategies that we can use to manage it?
One effective way I found a strategy is practicing mindfulness and also different relaxation techniques, such as deep breathing exercises or meditation. Like a quick thing that I do a lot is, you focus on just calming yourself by controlling your breath. You breathe in on like a 5 count and then out on a 5 count. And you do that consciously, like 3 times in a row, in 2, 3, 4, 5, out 2, 3, 4, 5. Do that 3 times in a row. It radically alters your emotional and mental and energetic space when you do that. So that's something that can be very helpful. These techniques can also calm the mind and the body, and they reduce the physiological effects of stress.
Another important aspect of maintaining a healthy lifestyle, which includes getting regular exercise, eating nutritious foods, and prioritizing sleep, which I am terrible at, by the way. I have terrible insomnia, and I will be the first person to tell you that when you suffer from sleep deprivation, your stress quotient is a lot higher throughout the day. So when our bodies are strong and well nourished, and we're better equipped to handle the stress.
So true. And I think that you bring up a really good point about prioritizing sleep, because sleep deprivation, I just was listening to a show about talking about how the 60 to 70% of Americans feel like they don't get enough sleep, chronically tired because of that, and it raises their stress level because they aren't rejuvenating, they're not getting rested, and they don't think it's important enough to prioritize getting the sleep. So I've done the same thing. I get distracted on something, I get caught in the rabbit hole of watching TikToks or YouTubes, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's 2 a.m. and I have to get up at 6. What am I doing? I've got to go to bed. It's time. I mean, I've done the same thing, but at the same time, I think it's important to, like I said, recognize that balance. And, we've heard this so many times, but it's so true. Your exercise, healthy foods, and getting enough sleep. Those 3 things can totally shift your world. Anyway, let's not forget the power of social support either, right? Connecting with family, friends, support groups, any kind of group like that provides valuable emotional support and a perspective during challenging times. It can be really helpful just to have a sounding board.
Well, and also distancing yourself and putting up boundaries for those friends, family, and support groups who are toxic.
So true. Like we've talked about,
Cause of extra stress.
like we've talked about in previous episodes. Yes, be selective about who you're hanging out with.
Sometimes
Yeah,
just taking the stressors with someone out of the equation, you know what I mean? And
yeah,
distancing yourself from those people, or finding someone who understands what your stressors are so you have a sounding board, can make a world
yeah.
of difference.
They have to be someone who understands you, who has your back, and is not going to be criticizing you, but actually, wants to support. Like I said, they're not contributing to that, but they're allowing you a space to express yourself and what's going on for you.
Absolutely. What are some positive applications where stress might be helpful?
Oh gosh, let's see. I think it can be used as a catalyst for growth and for resilience. A lot of times when you're facing a really difficult situation, you have the opportunity to learn and to adapt and ultimately become stronger in that process. And so I think the stress can make us take different choices, go down a different path than we would normally take, because it's enough uncomfortableness in that space that you're like, okay, I got to try something different. I'm gonna do something else that I've not done before And that gives you the opportunity to grow and to change and to find new resources within yourself. That's one aspect.
There's that saying that goes, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I fully subscribe to that. I mean, there's a lot of times where you're put through stress. So I would rather reframe it as, when you put metal through fire, right? It makes it stronger. And so I
Yes.
think, like, when you think about it, stress is that catalyst that can actually improve your ability to cope with something going forward, because you learn how you're going to react in a certain situation. You learn things about yourself and what you're capable of. Stress can push you past what you perceive as your internal limitations, and
Yes.
you come through the fire forged harder. Yeah.
Yeah, tempering the steel in the fire,
Yep.
right? That's what
Yep.
makes it stronger. I think that's a great analogy, Tiffany. You're spot on about that too. It's akin to stepping out of your comfort zone, right? That idea that you don't just doing the same thing over and over because it's easy, because it's
Mhm.
comfortable. It doesn't allow any kind of really chance to shift and to change things around. So I
Yeah.
think that's really I think that's perfect. I think the balance about it is like it's not too much stress, right? Because you like in that same analogy, if you over stress it, if you over fire it,
Yep.
then the sword becomes weak. It falls apart. It doesn't work. So it's that finding that balance that maximizes productivity without detrimental health effects, right? That's the thing. And also another aspect is doing inner world work. I think that is really helpful as well. And also I think seeking professional help too, getting therapy, getting counseling work. If you're feeling really totally overwhelmed, you can't seem to do it on your own. I think that's another option.
Yeah, I keep reminding my staff at work that they have access to mental health counseling and things like that.
Nice.
Because I think, again, it is Stress Awareness Month, and situations are stressful. And we've
Yeah.
talked before about work-life harmony and the
Yeah.
fact that, there are times where there are stressors, whether one way or the other, and you have to figure out how they can work symbiotically together in a way that doesn't cause you major burnout or to overbalance one or the other. But I think it's important that people understand that there are resources available that can help with overcoming. A lot of people, I think, also don't know where to turn in their personal life. They don't have someone in their personal life who understands the situation that they're in, and you need a third party person, sometimes
Yeah.
outside the issue or whatever the circumstances, to
Yeah.
help you see things about the situation that you may be blind to because you were in the middle of it. And so talking to a counselor, seeking out, a coach or some, can be a very, very helpful tool, to help, or resource to help you see beyond the limitations of where you're currently at. And so attending
Spot
things,
on.
your workshop where you learn resources,
Yeah.
attending and going through coaching sessions. I have spent a great deal of the last 5 years, working with a coach. And really within that coaching process, which you do coaching,
I
is
do.
the coach can help you learn the tools necessary to get through those things. They come with a huge arsenal of things, and also just being a sounding board who's outside of the immediate situation, who can potentially help you get beyond or help you see what the path forward could be.
Spot on, Tiffany. I've had many of my clients tell me that, over the years too, that just to have somebody they can talk to honestly, authentically, without being judged in a loving and accepting environment that's there to nurture and help them and move forward, with whether they're going through or working through their issues, that specifically is outside their group, right? Because there's a freedom about that.
Yeah.
People experience that, sometimes how people say you can be more honest with a stranger than with a friend sometimes
Oh,
for that
100%.
yeah,
100%.
for that same exact reason, right? Because they're detached. They have a different perspective. And like you said, that's the value of coaching. That's why once I love coaching is because I am able to step outside of that perspective and have a different viewpoint than you would get from being inside of it. And that's why I've also received coaching many times throughout my life and still do. Same thing, because someone comes up with a different way of looking at the world or looking at your situation that you haven't seen. Kind of that forest for the trees analogy, right? You're
Yep.
sometimes so close to it that you can't see around the tree, but somebody else is going, well, if you go on this side,
Yeah.
there's
Or
something behind the tree.
80 different varieties of trees. These are okay to like, let's focus on just this one type of tree and not be so overwhelmed by the, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
the first analogy is hugely beneficial, I think, in a lot of ways. So
yeah.
if somebody wanted to reach out to you to potentially have a coaching session, how would they get a hold of you?
Yeah, there's two ways you can really reach me. Send me an email at Ken with two N's, Ken at lionroars.com. That's my email address.
And that's
Lion Roars,
Lyon.
Lyon. Thank you for that. Yeah, a little play on words with my last name there. So yeah, Lyon, lionroars.com. And that's my website as well. You can go there. And there's also a phone number there as well. And if you go to my link tree, it's on my YouTube channel, it's on Facebook, it's on TikTok, it's on Instagram. There's a link there to also reach out to me and contact me. So those are probably the best ways to reach out to me, and I can call you back or send you an email. Yeah, but I'll be happy to work with anybody who feels drawn to that. That's why I'm here.
Well, we've come to the end of yet another insightful and small short. We're going to try to make these shorter episodes of Level Up Strong. Thank you to our listeners for tuning in. And remember, no matter what challenges you may face, you have the strength within you to overcome them.
That is right. Spot on, Tiffany. So until next time, stay resilient and keep leveling up stronger.